Welcome to Her Fantasy Football, where we go matchup by matchup to help you set your lineup for fantasy football. We're in week 11, people. Hop over
Yeah,
to
we are.
herfantasyfootball.com. Get us at Twitter at HerFantasyFB. You can check us out on ESPNW as well. And also, you can come like us on Facebook /Her Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Courtney Kirby.
And I'm Ashley Williams.
And I'm Brandon Lee.
We had a very exciting week. We're all exhausted. It is done. It's in the records book. Thank goodness. It was great, but it's over.
Yep, so, goodbye.
Yeah,
Yep.
Goodbye. We were all made an
Time for some
appearance
sleep.
on Nando's SiriusXM Fantasy Funhouse Friday morning. That was a good time.
Did you guys notice that he forgot the red noses?
I know, he forgot the red noses. He said that. It's so sad.
I made him apologize.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good.
We gotta have red noses in the funhouse. It's clowny.
It's true.
But do you actually wear them? Because last time you wore a red nose on our show, no one could understand you.
I didn't wear it for very long, but it's the point. It's the thought that counts.
Okay.
It's true. And then on Sunday, we were on DirecTV's Fantasy Zone.
Yes, we were.
That was very exciting. We got to do a little interview with the fantasy guru. He's amazing.
Yeah. John Hansen.
Yeah.
John Hansen. What a guy.
And some Kay Adams.
Some Kay Adams. Yes. This is very nice of them to have
Honey
us on.
Jones.
We got kicked out of a conference room by Jenny McCarthy. That was a moment.
That was my favorite part. My husband was like, really?
Like, it was amazing.
From Singled Out.
Yeah. We walk into the doors of SiriusXM and, oh, hi, Mary J. Blige. How are you today? Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Nice
she was
to be
fierce.
a fly on that wall. Yeah, she was.
Although Jimmy Page was there, too, and he didn't seem to get the attention that Mary J. got.
Yeah,
From us.
younger crowd.
Jimmy
It was
Page
a
wasn't
younger
there at the moment when we were there, so who knows, but...
My in-laws were impressed.
Yeah, well, it was a good time. It was a good time over at SiriusXM. That was fun. Saturday night, we went out with some of the folks from Fantasy Zone on DirecTV, and Brandon got to sit next to Mark Schlereth from the Denver Broncos and Washington Redskins, and his wife. They were amazing.
Yes, very nice people. I was very nervous, though, which is not like me. I get very weird around celebrities. I'm an alpha female, so when I'm in a beta mode, I'm not very good.
Yeah.
I need to be top dog. When I'm bottom dog, I'm like, that's
they were great. So definitely go check out Mark Schlereth's green chili. It's stinking good.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Our mother has it every morning with her eggs. It's great. I sat by Dhani Jones, and he pretty much does a little bit of everything nowadays. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Renaissance man.
Renaissance man. It's true. And again, the fantasy guru was there.
Fabulous guy.
Yeah, and the doc from Fantasy Zone.
Mark Addix was the man. He was the guy.
Gosh, I mean, it was a really good weekend. We had a lot of fun, and hopefully you got to check us out on different sites because that was a good time.
Yeah, we're going to post the video to our site. We're just so excited. We just had a wonderful, wonderful time with everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for giving us the opportunity. It was great. Well, let's get back to some fantasy football.
That's right. I'm ready to kick bottom.
It's week 11. Teams on bye. Get them out of your life. The Baltimore Ravens, the Dallas Cowboys, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the New York Jets.
Out.
Goodbye.
Injury report. Injury report. Injury report.
Allen Robinson broke his foot, ladies and gentlemen.
This is very sad news.
This is so sad because, as you know, the ladies of Her Fantasy Football have been avid supporters of Allen Robinson and his millions of targets that he's received this season. Yes, I said millions, and I will not back down. He was the #1 receiver in the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been fantastic all season, and we wish him the best of luck, and hopefully he gets this entire time to heal. And frankly, I'm really excited to draft you next year, my friend. Get well soon. On a fantasy note, you need to run to your waiver wire and pick up Cecil Shorts and Alan Hearns in that order. I'm going to go with the veteran first. I think he'll get the most targets. But I think Alan Hearns is the big play guy. They're both great. They need to go immediately. And because they're on bye and you can't play them until next week, they're going to be sitting there. So you need to snatch them up because Blake Bortles throws the ball all the time, hence all his interceptions. But he also does make a lot of completions. If you're in a PPR league, I rubber stamp those moves. Do it right away. That's our kind of like bye-week update. But as far as, listen, we're going into the playoffs, and you need to have guys that are going to make big plays. And I think these are two people that you can get now. Look at your waiver wire. Look at all the garbage out there.
Yeah.
Listen, there's terrible things out there. These are two shining hopes. I'm just putting it out there. You should pick them up.
This is definitely the time where you want to start, getting rid of the molded cheese on your roster, you guys. I know a lot of us have
molded cheese.
The molded cheese. You got to get rid of it. We have some people we just are holding on to because of the name, because of where we drafted them. Guys, it's week 11. It's time to just say goodbye. Got to break those ties. Got to cut them off.
Which, by the way, you guys follow at Sporty Sharona. We are women who support women. And I was just on her show, and one of the questions was, how do you feel about you have to start your studs? And I said, oh, no, I think you do. But by week 11, there are new studs.
Yes,
like,
the definition of stud has now changed.
Yeah, I'm going to start Odell Beckham before Vincent Jackson.
Yeah.
Do not get me wrong. That's the way it is now. But that's not because one of them is not a stud. It's that Odell Beckham is now a stud.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, Courtney.
Courtney's always. I'm into it. Well, we're now 7 minutes into the show. We're going to get you to some social media questions since we're rolling into fantasy playoffs is coming up soon, you guys. It's coming up.
Get excited. Get your rosters ready. So one of our followers, Sav Rizzo at Riz_20, asks, need a backup tight end. Drop Ertz for Rivera or Rudolph rest of season. Also, Calvin Benjamin, Jeremy Hill this week, Standard League. Thanks and keep up the great work. Well, thank you, sir.
So who was it? Drop Ertz for Rivera or who?
Or Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph comes back this week.
Kyle Rudolph may come back this week. Yeah, he's still listed as questionable. I like Rudolph, but
Rivera's been balling the last 4 weeks. Balling. Like, he and Gronk are at the top of the list. Gronk, and Julius Thomas for the last 4 weeks are right here.
Yeah, but I'm benching Rivera this week, you guys. Just so you know, Michael Rivera is on my bench this week. San Diego is tough against tight ends, and it is going to be foggy out there. So just so you know. I love Rivera, but I don't think his schedule gets any easier, if I can remember correctly, which is the only thing. On the other side, I believe Rudolph might be the better play going forward.
He has an easier schedule for sure. The Bears give up the most fantasy points to tight ends in the league.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they play the Chicago Bears in week 17, I believe, again. So
if that's your playoffs, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
I agree. What about this Benjamin or Hill this week for flex?
And let me just put this out there, too. Dropping Ertz, you can't go wrong with that, anyways.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, drop Ertz.
Sorry.
Let's my write-up. I'm done.
Yeah, where he's done. Okay.
D-U-N, done.
What was the next
I'm sorry. Do you guys hear that beeping? I know it's my computer, and I can't get it to stop.
I can't
I don't hear anything.
No beeping here.
We'll find out when this
We're all
show is
good.
over.
What was the next part of the question?
Calvin Benjamin or Jeremy Hill this week?
As a flex?
Mm-hmm.
Calvin Benjamin.
No,
He's the targets. I mean, he's dog poop, but I mean, like, he really is quite bad. But he's the only receiver on the team, so he's going to keep getting the targets. He's going to keep making plays. It just is what it is.
Yeah. I still think Giovanni Bernard's going to come back. I might be the only one. I know he's questionable. It's all over the map, but until Giovanni Bernard's back, I'm not quite sure I'm touching a Bengal. I mean, I feel like you have to start AJ Green because actually he's been very good other than that 1 week whenever he's played. But other than that, I don't know, man.
Sanu.
Sanu's been solid.
Sanu's been solid.
I'm
Sanu's
sorry.
been more solid than Green even. I mean, come on. I mean, it's
No, I
Yeah.
agree. But
Yeah.
ugh, there's just nothing. There's nothing to like there.
Yeah, I mean, Hill
Um,
got benched. The thing is that Hill got benched for having this first fumble of his career on Thursday, and he got benched a whole quarter. And it wasn't even the whole game wasn't even his fault. So that does not excite me.
I've never understood that mentality though.
I don't either. I hate the benching with one fumble.
With one fumble and your
Yeah.
first fumble ever, I get someone's fumbled like 3 times. Yeah, you bench him.
Right.
But one time, all that does is then put you in your head, you know. Like
Right.
if anything, send him right back out and give him the rock immediately. Again.
Well, even when they did send him back out, they really didn't use him. So Cincinnati is kind of a hot mess. I wouldn't go that way. I'd go Benjamin all the way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. So, okay. Would you drop John Brown or Devontae Adams for CJ Anderson?
I think it depends on how badly you need someone this week. What I don't love about C.J. Anderson is that Monty Ball is coming back, right?
Yep.
And so already with Ronnie Hillman, we had this talk of Ronnie Hillman and Ball sharing the ball, which quite honestly shouldn't even be a conversation with the way the lights out play that Hillman was playing. But you got C.J. Anderson with he had a good game, but Monty Ball was the starter before he got hurt. So I think you're looking at a really serious workload share.
It was John Brown or who?
Devontae Adams.
For C.J. Anderson.
I'm not totally familiar with Devontae Adams' numbers, but I will say that John Brown is a boom or bust player, and he has now pretty much he's now the number 2 wide receiver in Arizona for the most part. He's playing with a backup quarterback, Stanton, who I do enjoy. Anyways,
I do enjoy him as well.
I would say keep John Brown. I guess it depends on what you need. Do you need a running back or do you need a wide receiver? If this is a flex option, well, you got to look at what has more upside. And gosh, you can never go wrong when Aaron Rodgers is throwing you the ball. So.
Devontae Adams scores usually at home. He didn't score last week, but that's because we're doing 2 tight end sets. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But basically, I think that they're going to change that this time. They did the 2 tight end sets against Chicago because they just wanted to decimate them. And
right.
This week against Philadelphia, they're going to need to get a little more creative, and I think Devontae Adams is going to be the beneficiary of that. So if that's this week, go for it. My problem with C.J. Anderson is Monty Ball, Ronnie Hillman. So
right. Crowded backfield.
Yeah. So anyway, I am not able to access the other things, so let's just
Let's just move on. Let's move on. Again, teams on bye. Teams on bye. The Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the New York Jets. Get them out of your lineup. Let's move on to Thursday night game. Bam. Buffalo Bills at Miami Dolphins, both 5-4.
Lovely. Buffalo Bills. I have the other question for later, but we're going to do it. Actually, no, we're going to do it. We're going to do it right now because it's a Bills question, if you don't mind. So I think I can have that instead of my big old write-up here. In a PPR league, out of 2 flex spots, who would you ladies choose in Week 11? Fred Jackson, Charles Sims, or Jonathan Stewart? And bonus question, would you play Travis Kelce or Kyle Rudolph?
Jackson and Kelsey.
He needs 2 out of Jackson, Sims, and Stewart. Travis and Kelce are separate.
I'm high on Stewart this week, you guys. I got Stewart in a must start.
Oh,
wow.
I know. And
you'd be perfect because I think Fred Jackson's for sure.
Fred Jackson.
I was going to say Jackson Stewart. I'm not touching Sims.
Yeah, Stewart, you know what? Stewart's gone up against Atlanta. They're the worst. They are the worst, And D'Angelo's still banged up. I have to say this, so just prepare yourself. Last time I said start Stewart, and it's only been one time this year. He got injured. So didn't finish the game, but
way to take responsibility for your actions.
I am. But he's I mean, all the mojo's out there that he should have a good game this week. So I'm going Stewart on that one along with Jackson. And then the other one was Kelsey or Rudolph. Rudolph again going against must give up the most points, but he's coming back from an injury, and you just don't know how they're going to work him in. His points before his injury weren't great either, so it's like the best week to play him and the worst week to play him, so that's hard. Kelsey's a sure bet for 5 points, so whatever. Hey, it's what you need. What's your upside, What's your feeling?
I like it. Great. So when we're talking about the Buffalo Bills, the problem is they're playing Miami, and they're playing on a Thursday, and no one likes either of those things. Literally, those are the 2 worst things I could tell you about anything. What I can tell you is that they're a little bit easier against the run than the pass, but just slightly. So if Fred Jackson is totally healthy, and not like last week where they kind of were like lightly playing him, which we knew was a possibility, then he is the person I want to play. If you have Anthony Dixon or Bryce Brown, I am sure that someone else is available in the waiver wire that you should be picking up instead. So can we stop this? So that's how I feel about that. He is currently, Jackson listed as questionable. He practiced limited both Tuesday and Wednesday. Another update is on Sammy Watkins, the love of all of our lives. He's currently probable with a groin injury as well. But he is practicing in full, so I think everything is good to go with him.
So I can take him out of timeout now because he was a bad boy last week.
He was a bad boy last week.
Bad boy.
And groins are no joke. It affects stability and speed.
Yes.
I know. That's why I'm still worried about him.
I'm a little worried, too. I'm more worried because the Dolphins give up the 6th fewest points to wide receivers.
Yeah.
And it's not like Kyle Orton's Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, not that he's terrible, but somehow he had 12 points in the second quarter, Kyle Orton, and then 14 points at the end of the game.
Amazing.
I want you to think about that. I was like, oh, he's doing really well. And then I checked, and I was like, never mind. So, listen, I hate Thursday games. I ignore them in my daily lineups, and I encourage you to do the same. They are extremely unpredictable. I do not like them. But those are my thoughts on that. I would also say that Robert Woods, although I do not suggest you starting him in any format this week, they have a very easy schedule moving forward. They're against the Jets, then Cleveland, which is tough, but second wide receivers score a lot of points against Cleveland. The first one is screwed. Hayden shuts you down. But the second one scores a lot of points. And then at Denver, then Green Bay, then Oakland, and then at New England. They actually have a pretty decent schedule for wide receivers moving forward, so he might be a sneaky pickup. Bench warmers, Kyle Orton, I just told you. Scott Chandler, Dolphins give up the 10th fewest points to tight ends, and I don't want you playing him anyway. Done.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
There we go. Time for the Dolphins.
Yes, please. Yes.
So Mike Wallace, guys, finally scored a touchdown.
Uh-huh.
Phew.
Thank
goodness.
you.
He hadn't scored a touchdown, in a while, so that was a little bit nerve-wracking. And he had 5 catches on 8 targets for 51 yards, so, this is 6 total touchdowns for the season, so be feeling good about that, And the good news is that he played really well against the Bills already this year in week 2, so I'd expect a similar performance with that, in which he had 56 yards and a touchdown. So you're looking, again, double-digit points.
Mm-hmm.
Miami defense I also have as my must-starts. They didn't quite produce the numbers we were hoping for last week, but they were against Megatron. So let's kind of just say that it's kind of one of those weird games. But they still got you 6 points, so you can't be too mad about that. And the Bills give up the 11th most points, and Kyle Orton has been sacked a lot. So I think the Dolphins will be able to sack him quite a bit, which is just points for you. So I like the Dolphins a lot this week. My gut calls is Jarvis Landry. He's kind of moved himself into that wide receiver 2 slot for the actual Dolphins, but he's not quite a wide receiver 2 for you in your fantasy lineup. He's kind of in that wide receiver 3 position, but keep your eye out for him because as the weeks go, you could possibly pick him up at a lot of leagues too. He might be someone that's sneaky a few weeks from now. Not right now.
A lot of questions about him.
A lot of questions because he looked okay. He looked okay, but he's not quite, in my opinion, he's not quite a play yet. So, Lamar Miller, as expected, he was limited due to his AC joint injury in his shoulder. but he is expected to play Week 11. But I think his role is going to be limited again, in which case he's going to be sharing touches with Daniel Thomas and Damian Williams. So I'm going to say keep your expectations low on Miller and definitely check into your injury reports before the game starts. Because right now he's limited in practice, but for all you know, he'll be practicing in full in a couple days. So definitely check your lineups. Because if he is healthy, then I don't expect Damian Williams or Daniel Thomas to really get many touches at all. But again, very, very much so watch for that. My bench, Charles Clay. He's been targeted quite a bit the last week. Had 7 receptions. He was only able to get 45 yards off the 7 receptions, a total of 4 points. And he only scored 3 points in week 2 when they played the Bills. So he's just not consistent, and you kind of expect the same kind of production this time around as when they played the Bills last time. So he's on a bench.
So that was amazing, right? You meant to say those were amazing numbers.
Yeah.
For tight end? Yeah.
Travis Kelce numbers.
Yes, no. Kelce scores more than 3 points.
Not recently.
Well, he got shut down last week. Last week was ugly. They scored 1 point last week. But, no, Charles Clay is just... And my other issue, too, is that with Travis Kelce is the main target in the air.
Yeah.
For
okay.
Whereas Charles Clay is not
Jamal
even remotely a leading receiver. Well, yeah, Jamal
Kelce
Charles
is Greg Olsen without the production, right?
Right. Yeah, that's good.
Someone called him like the poor man's Heath Miller. That made me sad. I was like, oh.
That's really sad. Yeah, ouchie.
I would say the poor man's Greg Olsen more than the poor man's Heath Miller.
I love him. I just don't think they're using him appropriately.
Charles Clay or Heath Miller or Travis Kelce?
Kelce.
All.
We'll get to them later. Either way, we're saying you should
all of the above. Let's get moving on. Minnesota Vikings 4-5 at the awful Chicago Bears 3-6.
Hey now.
News report: there is a chance of snow. Prepare yourselves. This is the first week, you guys, that we really need to be thinking about weather. So.
I love it.
It's football season. Exciting. It's exciting. It's really football now. So, but hey, this is an exciting week for the Vikings. I'm actually really excited to talk about them for the first time this year. Play them if you got them.
Yes.
I have somebody.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Who?
I know. I've got 4 people.
Playing if you got them?
I know, because we're playing against the Chicago Bears, you guys, and they're really bad. So,
They're terrible.
They're so bad. You know who I'm starting this week? Greg Jennings. And you know what? I'm even going to reach even a little bit farther. I'm playing Cordero Patterson. Hey, you drafted him. You kept him in your roster. You need a wide receiver off the waivers. This is it, you guys. This is it. This is your moment. I will most likely never tell you again to start either one of these guys.
Don't they pay Chicago again later this year?
They do, the week 17.
Yeah.
So okay, one more time. I'll tell you one more time. One more time.
Oh, God.
But this is it. Even though Patterson has been dog poop this year, you guys, dog poop. And there is no shame. But there's no shame in starting him this week. And Jennings has been consistent. 7 fantasy points. That's what he's going to get you. I'm going to say 60 yards and a touchdown for Mr. Jennings. Go Vikings. Play him.
That's double digits.
Blair Walsh, the kicker. He's,
All right.
He's the most consistent, really, person on the Vikings. Minnesota Vikings defense, you guys. The Bears give up the 7th most fantasy points to defenses, and they are only getting worse. Winning. And the Vikings had double digits in 2 of their last 3 outings and fall into the top 10 defenses for fantasy points. So there you go.
I like it.
So let's do it, you guys. Take down Mr. Cutler. Gut calls. I've got Teddy Bridgewater and gut calls. The Bears are so bad that even Bridgewater is viable this week, you guys. It's true. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, he is a must start. If not, well, you need somebody to fill in Palmer.
On the Bears.
I think it's pretty obvious. Everybody can be hating on the Bears. Seriously, Chicago gives up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. I could give you Bridgewater's stats previous. It doesn't matter how bad he's been. It's the Bears.
Bold.
Kyle Rudolph got calls, and he is literally a gut call. He's been out for 7 weeks with a sports hernia. That is some serious stuff. He should be back this week. They say he's in. The Bears give up the most fantasy points to tight ends, so if you want to roll the dice, totally understand. But I would keep an eye on that injury report up to the moment they play on Sunday morning. Jerick McKinnon. I believe. Well, you know what?
I believe because the Bears are that bad.
The Bears are that bad.
Rudolph.
I'd like to see one more week of chemistry between a rookie quarterback and
I know. But you guys, it's the Bears, so really you cannot go wrong. McKinnon and Asiata, I have them both in gut calls. And they really are just gut calls. I mean, I'm not in love with either one of them. They split carries. Either one could be productive. Neither one could be. And it's the Vikings, and nobody's on the bench. Let's do it. Go Vikings.
I'm not on the Bears are bad train, Brandon. They are. I'm just not sure I can be on the
Vikings are good train.
You guys, the Vikings have a better record, and you know what? The Vikings are actually in contention for the playoffs still. They are not ruled out. I actually looked into it today.
That's real football. That's
but I
want
to say, that's amazing, considering they lost Adrian Peterson.
Amazing.
I want to give George Zimmer all the credit here on this show.
And their starting quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Valid, Courtney.
I didn't even think about that. Absolutely true. Vikings and the Browns and the Bills are the feel-good stories of the year, and that's called teamwork, people. That's what teamwork looks like. However, Courtney, a quick question for you.
Yes.
What's up with AP? People are wondering.
People are wondering. You know, I don't know what's up with AP, and I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen yet. You know, if you want to pick him off the waiver wires, that's up to you. He might be sitting there for the rest of the season. So I would stay. You know, I don't know what to say, really, to be honest, about him. I don't know if the Vikings want him back, you know, for PR reasons, you know.
A lot of attention around him for really absolutely no concrete stories saying he was coming back anytime soon.
Well, it's simply the fact that he pleaded guilty, and when you plead guilty, it's supposed to move everything faster in the NFL. It's supposed to be game on for him, and, you know, the union wants it to be let's go. So we'll see. I mean, that's a personal judgment call on whether you want to pick him up or not and play him. Not play him, obviously. Don't play AP. He's not playing.
Right.
But yeah.
We should tell you to play
monster.
Don't play AP and don't play Jay Cutler, okay, guys? This is where we're at on this matchup. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'll report on that when I hear more. But for right now, you want to pick him up, okay. If you don't, okay.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if his also telling the cops, yeah, I smoked pot, if that's going to have anything to do with the NFL. Because although he didn't get caught smoking pot, it is against league policy. So I'm wondering if because they've been dragging their feet. Because they could have already had him in there, and they're like,
I think they're going to drag their feet for a bit more, too, on this. Because here's the thing, is this is the first opportunity they have to reinstate somebody after kind of breaking this
made-up list.
This policy, right? So, I mean, they want to make sure they handle this exactly, I don't use the word right, but, you know,
right. Well,
where they feel comfortable with that moving forward because it sets a precedence, right? So I think they're not going to be super quick to this.
Point is, if you did it, you did it, you picked him up, hold on to him. He's not playing this week, as Courtney said, and that's the way it is. But you know who is playing? Chicago Bears.
Barely.
And I'm gonna take a little mini rant moment. Jay Cutler is a coach killer, and I will not hear anything else. He is the constant for the last 10 years. I am so done having conversations about firing coaches around this guy. I refuse. I refuse to talk about it. I'm sorry. Yes, am I a Mark Trestman apologist? Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Just say he's a coach.
Every coach he's had has been fired. Think about it. I want you to go back in your mind and think of who's all been fired because of Jay Cutler. It's going to blow your mind. Nice, good people. Lovie Smith, We love you. Sorry about the Buccaneers. But the whole point is that there are nice people that continue to get fired, and I refuse to talk about it. You guys, he's had 15 turnovers. And then I heard Jaworski on ESPN on Mike and Mike talking about this morning that he also has the most dropped interceptions in the league. That's like a stat that like Jaworski and his like film people do. That's right. He should have had more interceptions than he's actually had this year. And
his balls are so bad that they can't even intercept them. It's amazing.
He takes like zero responsibility too, which I also find really interesting.
Zero leadership. He's that kind of guy. Listen, I feel like I would like to take a moment. I'm gonna say something positive, and then I'll I feel like I might actually not dislike Jay Cutler in real life. If I was like hanging out with him and we went out to lunch, I don't think like he's a bad person. I'm just saying when he's leading your football team and you have fantasy players on it, you're a little distressed. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, we're not all cut out to be quarterbacks of a major NFL team.
What's interesting to me is you look at someone like Peyton Manning, and no, I'm not just saying Peyton Manning because he's a Bronco.
He's also a little crazy, which I love about him.
But he sits there and takes responsibility for absolutely everything. Even times when when it is clearly not his fault, he says it's his fault. And why? Because you were supposed to be the leader of the team when you are the quarterback. You take responsibility in those press conferences, and Jay Cutler never does that.
No.
He never does that.
This is my rant of the week. This is my biggie. I cannot handle it. But this is where it relates to fantasy football, because we need to bring it back, because Courtney is going to tell me that I am talking too much, and she's right. But I am a Mark Tessman apologist, and I need to put it out there. Here's the deal. You're still starting Jay Cutler.
Oh!
Boom! What?
Boom!
No, you are not.
No, you're not.
Yes.
Don't do it, people. Don't listen to her. She's crazy. She's lost it.
Minnesota does give up the fourth fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. So they actually have a pretty decent defense, which kind of surprised me. And then I was like, oh, that's why they're still in contention.
And you're
but
still
guys,
starting.
Prior to the last 2 weeks, he was balling. Matt Forte is still a must-start. Stop yourself. He's only had 1 week outside of the top 15 in running backs. There's no other running back that can say that. Don't get cute. Okay? Do not get cute. Unless you're telling me that you're going to start Denard Robinson over him, which, by the way, he's on a bye, so you can't tell me that. There's nothing else to talk about. He's a starting running back. Stop it. And people are freaking out. People are freaking out. And if they're freaking out, you pick up Matt Forte. If someone wants to trade you Matt Forte and you have to give them you pick him up. It's ridiculous. Also, week 17 he's against Minnesota. Go for it. So Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall still must starts, because you know what? Jeffrey was targeted 12 times last week, caught 6 of them. They weren't all great targets for 63 yards. Marshall twisted his left ankle. Still, he caught 8 of 10 targets for 112 yards and a touchdown. Why are you people complaining in fantasy football? Martellus Bennett was hurt, which is why he only had 45 yards. Still a must start because he's a tight end. No one's in the gut calls. Bench warmers, that defense is terrible. I agree with Courtney and her entire analysis prior to this.
Bam.
Other than I'm starting other people.
Houston Texans 4-5, the Cleveland Browns 6-3.
I'm just chuckling because literally as I was making my notes for this show, I was like, I should name this show Possibilities to Fill Jay Cutler's Spot. I mentioned like in 3 different things people to start over if you're a Jay Cutler owner.
I know. He's hard to start, but it's putting out there.
Very hard to start. We'll go with the Texans out because this should be fairly short. Arian Foster. He's a given if he plays. He sustained a groin injury, as we talked about earlier. I'm a little concerned because the groin, it's a pretty major injury. So, depending on the severity of that injury, Coach O'Brien has said that Foster's day-to-day, which again is also a bit concerning because they did have the bye week last week, so you would think that would give him a little, extra push in the healing, but it doesn't seem like it has. So make sure you check your injury report Sunday morning to see if he will play. If he doesn't play, next man up is Alfred Blue. He would be the guy. So if you are in a real pinch, I'm okay with playing him because even if Foster does play, he might be limited, in which case Blue could get some touches. So I'm talking if you're in a very deep league and you need a flex, Blue's not a horrible idea, is all I'm saying. And he could have a good game again if Foster actually is out. Now, Andre Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins. I've had my gut calls, even though Hopkins has been actually going off in pretty much every single game. For some reason, people still don't believe in DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm not quite sure why that is. But my issue is that they got a quarterback switch. We didn't talk about it last week because they were on bye. But Fitzpatrick out, Mallett is in. And I'm a little concerned. I think they dropped Fitzpatrick a little early, but I think we all knew this was coming because there was no reason why they made that crazy trade to get Mallett if they weren't intending on playing him at some point in time. So we knew this was coming. Now it is here. They did have the bye week to see if they could develop some chemistry, but quite honestly, for me, I would feel a little better playing on someone that's a safer choice who you've seen how they interact on the field together. Just my call. Bench is everybody else.
Nice, Ashley. Thank you. Get us back on track. Cleveland Browns.
All right, here's the deal. Like Cincinnati from last week, you can run on the Texans. They give up the 10th most fantasy points to running backs. And last week, Tate, West, and Crowell all scored touchdowns. So there's a possibility that that happens again. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how they're rolling these days. Brian Hoyer, after that huge, butt kicking against the Bengals, only had 8 fantasy points, the quarterback, because all they did was run. I think there's a big chance of that happening again. If you want to know who's going to have the most points, technically that would be West. However, Ben Tate openly said on Tuesday that he's not happy with this new sharing thing. That's going to go one of two ways. Either he's going to get the ball a lot more because he was the bell cow at the beginning of the season, or they're going to shut him out. So that's how that's going to go. Also, start their defense. They're going up against Ryan Mallett's first away game start. Hello. Yeah. I have nothing else to say about their history, even though they scored 22 points last week against Cincinnati.
Especially if Foster doesn't play. Start that
Absolutely. This is going to be a bloodbath for their defense. Bloodbath. As far as gut calls are concerned, the Texans give up the second most points to wide receivers. If Andrew Hawkins is healthy, he was a late game time scratch last week due to injuries. So check the injury report. But if he's playing, I would play him. Also, to assuage all of your concerns, I believe when Josh Gordon comes back, it's actually going to be a positive thing for him. I know that sounds crazy, but he's the only wide receiver to defend, and Jordan Cameron's out with a concussion still. I think that it's actually going to be a positive thing for him, and I think Josh Gordon's going to have to, get some dust off from all these weeks off. So I feel like this is actually going to be a great tandem. I think he's a very interesting pickup. His rest of season schedule is great. Atlanta, Indy, Cincinnati, Carolina in Week 16, which is usually your championship. You want to have a receiver going against Carolina Week 16. Which also, reminder, check for Josh Gordon just in case. It's coming back next week, so congratulations. Bench warmers, Jordan Cameron, as I said, is out. And then Brian Hoyer, as I said, 8 points. I love him in real football. In fantasy, no go.
No go. The Atlanta Falcons 3-6 at Carolina Panthers 3-6-1. Game of the week.
Right?
Terrifying.
Woo!
One of the people in that division is going to have to be in the playoffs?
It's amazing.
It's going to be like Seattle that year when they had a losing record and they got a home game and won.
It's awesome.
I think it's going to be the Saints this year.
You never know what's happening in the playoffs. You never know. You never know with Steven Jackson either. And right now he's hot.
Must start.
So ride that train right now. Ride it. He said, what's that, sizzle?
It's sizzling.
Nice.
It's like Richard Simmons.
I thought you were frozening me, and I was going to get all
little Steven Sizzle.
That was me frozen for people who can't see me.
Yeah. But he's had 2 back-to-back weeks, guys, with solid double-digit points. And we really needed him to step up his game last week because we had a lot of running backs out on bye, and he did. He was the 7th highest scoring running back last week, and this week looks to be pretty promising as the Panthers give up the 5th most points to running backs. So
easy peasy.
All signs point to yes on Steven Jackson. My gut call, Matt Ryan. Here's my thing with him. He's continued to be in the mid-teens performances. Literally, this guy gets 14 every single week. So he's not a top-performing quarterback, but if you're in a 14-team league, then yeah, you're starting Matt Ryan. It just kind of is what it is. The good news is that they're playing the Panthers, who, again, give up the 6th most points to opposing quarterbacks. So you should be in, guys, for another 14-point week. Get excited.
Get excited.
My other gut calls are going to be Roddy White and Julio Jones. We'll start with Roddy. White has been up and down this season, but what is really actually interesting is his up games are on the road for the most part. So of his 4 double-digit point games, only one of those came at home. The rest have all been at away games.
Weird.
Lucky for you, this game is in Carolina. So, and the Panthers secondary, again, is not strong because for whatever reason, the Panthers defense is not legit this year. So your odds are in favor for Roddy playing well this week. So give it a thought. Julio Jones has been a bit of a disappointment if you're a Julio Jones owner. But the big issue is that his yardage isn't all that bad. He's just not finding the end zone. He's only scored 3 touchdowns all season long, which is a little bit surprising. So you just got to really hope that Matt Ryan can find him in the end zone. Otherwise, because he's really been kind of scoring in the 5-point realm, which is not good. So that's what I want you to think a little bit more. I like Roddy a bit more this week than Julio. And then as for my bench, everyone else on the bench.
On the bench, Carolina Panthers, chance of rain, people. Watch the news. Calvin Benjamin. Well, I guess we really don't care how or when we get our fantasy points, people, now do we? But Benjamin was really bad last Monday night.
By the way, thank you, Peter Kimball, for coming to the Fantasy Zone. And we told
and
you
your
to start
sweet
Calvin
line.
Benjamin.
Peter
We
and
love you.
Megan.
Megan, your wife, is maybe one of the most lovely, almost going to pop pregnant people I've met in a long time.
She's not. Okay, my sisters have never had a baby. She's not almost going to pop. She still has a month and a half left. For those of us who've had children,
I have
she's
somebody
yet to
for
even
people that
reach
does.
the spot that she waddles. She's still in like the cutest little pregnancy mode.
She's the
so
cutest person.
She is
Yeah.
the cutest.
But thank you.
Yes, but thank you both for coming and supporting
And
us.
Peter played Kelvin, and he thanked us.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the garbage points.
Yeah, for the garbage points, because they did not come into the fourth quarter. Although, yeah, as I said, he was really bad. Couldn't run routes, couldn't catch a ball, but he ended the game with 19 points. So on that side, nobody else is a receiver on the Carolina Panthers, so you're going to start him. Jonathan Stewart, I know it's crazy, but we're starting him this week, you guys. The Falcons give up the most fantasy points to running backs, and Stewart is
Bold.
coming off a nice game with nearly 12 fantasy points. If you have a running back on bye, this is the guy. I'm telling you, got to play him. You don't have to play him, all right? Only if you need a spot filler do you play him, but he's the one. Greg Olsen. Olsen had a nice bounce-back week last week with 119 fantasy points. He's a must-start. Even though Atlanta's strength on defense is guarding the tight ends, we're still going to start Olsen. And Cam Newton falls in my gut calls. The rumors are that Newton is dealing with an injured ankle, and not the one that he had off-season surgery on, the other one. Let's hope there's something wrong with him because his performance has been poor to say the least. Rather
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
not.
feel bad for him.
I mean, he should be able to make something happen this week at home playing against Atlanta, but I'm not putting money on it. D'Angelo Williams, I have him in gut calls simply because Atlanta's so bad, but Williams is struggling with an ankle injury as well, so not my favorite, but only you know how desperate you are. And the bench warmers, the Carolina Panthers, man, they're bad this year. They have had negative points 3 times. That's not good.
Ugly.
Unbelievable.
Greg Hardy.
It's really bad.
They are
Yeah.
missing him badly.
Yeah. So is Jail. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 1-8 and Washington Redskins 3-6.
Just want to acknowledge that, Courtney. That was a good one.
Was
This
good.
one might actually be the game of the week right here, guys. Tampa Bay 1-8.
Washington Redskins 3-6. Man, this is you right. Game of the week.
Although I will say I'm actually really excited for this game.
Oh,
Sure, why
great.
not?
Make it quick.
Because
Football.
this could be a really interesting game because I tell you what, guys, Mike Evans on fire. We told
Love
you
it.
not to worry about Mike Evans. We said, the whole return of, Josh McCown. We were right. He had his most yardage and second most fantasy points of the season last week. So this kid is legit, and you should ride with him for the rest of the season. Feel good about him. Vincent Jackson didn't have a terrible week. He's averaging 7.5 points right now. Within the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 7.5 points. And the Redskins give the 14th fewest points to wideouts. So we're kind of hoping for a little, chemistry action between him and McCown and Evans. So, but it's possible.
Banking on it.
We're banking on that. And then Josh McCown. Here's my first, Brandon. Here's the first of them. So McCown had his first week back from injury and threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, it needs to be mentioned that he did throw 2 interceptions, but even with that, he was still the 5th highest scoring quarterback last week.
No, he was. It was crazy.
So, hey, Jay Cutler owners. Do you want to check and see if McCown is available in your leagues? Just saying. This is the first of 3. First of 3 options I will present.
All right.
Jay Cutler owners. My bench.
I'm doubling down on Jay Cutler, even though I dislike him. It hurts me, you guys. It hurts me. I don't own him actually in any of my leagues.
Over under 21 fantasy points, Brandon.
Under, but I think like 19, 18.
Okay.
Intriguing. Now McCown had 19 points last week. So.
Yeah, well, I think that I'd like to see that twice in a row. Thanks.
No, I don't disagree. But we've seen Jay be bad twice in a row. So, just saying. On my bench, guys, all the Tampa Bay running backs, all of them. We got Doug Martin out. Bob Rainey's technically the man. We got Charles Sims, a rookie, who's going to come in, steal touches. Rainey only got 5 points last week. It's a nightmare.
Rainey's the new Sankey. You heard it here first. It's like black is the new black.
Did you say black is the new black?
Yeah, you hear that like as a fashion joke? No?
I've not heard that, no. I don't hang around fashion people.
Anyway.
But all I know is it's bad. It's bad news and you stay away from it. Bad.
I'm killing Courtney over there.
I know.
On to the Redskins.
Let's move from black is the new black to the Redskins. All right.
Oh, no. Jeez.
Deshaun Jackson, guys. Deshaun Jackson is one of the top receivers in the game this season, and you have to start him.
Yes,
Yes,
he's always been one of the top ones.
I know.
I love
Deshaun.
He's my favorite. Deshaun.
Games, 3 to be precise.
Yes.
Like legitimately bad games this year. But the rest have been fantastic. And he's had over 100 yards in 5 different games and is the 11th highest scoring receiver for the season. So I must say this is actually pretty impressive for the fact that he's on his 3rd quarterback of the year.
Yes, I completely agree with you.
For having 3 different quarterbacks. So whether you like him or not, he's a must-start. Alfred Morris is also a must-start right now for you. You've been a little bit nervous. I get that. He had 4 awesome weeks and 2 kind of ho-hum weeks, 3 downright bad weeks. But the good news is the last 2 weeks have been really good. He's been blowing it up. He's looking solid. And let's just hope they kind of get back on track with RG3 coming in. And, people might not realize it, but if you've got a bad quarterback, it also can affect your running back situation. So
of course,
let's hope things are getting back on track here. My gut call, the third. I'm going to throw out a lot of possible options for Jay Cutler, and here's guys. RG3.
I like RG3.
2-in-1 matchup here. He did have a spectacular game. He had, but he did throw for 251 yards and a touchdown, only 1 interception, which was better than I was expecting, to be honest with you. And they were out on bye week last week, so hopefully this means he's a week healthier, another week working with his team to get some more chemistry. I think he's a good option this week because Tampa Bay's defense is not good. And then my bench, Pierre Garçon. It has to be said, it is time to drop Pierre Garçon. He's definitely on your bench at this point. I mean, the plain fact of the matter is he does not get targeted enough. He's only had 3 touchdowns on the year.
Conversation. He's not a stud.
It's really sad. I mean,
Sorry.
He's not a stud anymore. He's getting, it's bad, no touchdowns, not enough targets, pathetic yardage. I mean, you have to face it. Deshaun Jackson came into the Redskins and usurped Pierre Garçon in the leading receiver role. It is what it is, people. It's sad.
Sad.
Mic drop.
Sad.
It is sad because I think he's got a good talent, but
he is talented.
Oh man, I hate to go down negative town because I have to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals next. The Bengals 5-3-1 at the New Orleans Saints 4-5. Man, last week was really brutal, really bad. So let's just start off at the bench. Let's get over with it, right? Andy Dalton, you are awful. 86 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He now has more interceptions than touchdowns on the year. Not good, people.
That is such a sad stat.
It is a sad stat. All right, but good thing for you, last week was a freak thing. Dalton throws his interceptions. That's why he's awful. But you're still going to start Sanu and Green, you guys. The New Orleans Saints secondary is god-awful. And the one good guy, Keenan Allen, Google it, people. His knee is crazy town. He played through that, and he says he's playing this week, but that's not normal. Okay, Google it.
Yeah,
Bananas. I got Jeremy Hill in gut calls. Bernard is most likely out again this week. Still up in the air. Watch your Bleacher Report. But, it's just, he's not my favorite. He's good. He's great. I love him. But the Bengals aren't using him properly. As I said, they benched him a whole quarter for his first fumble of his career. That's not cool.
Ooh.
I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't like those coaching plays. So, I got him in gut calls. New Orleans Saints.
Yeah. Well, listen, New Orleans Saints at home, totally different than New Orleans Saints away. And they are home today. But the Cincinnati Bengals still are a little rough, especially they give up the second fewest points to wide receivers. So here's the deal. Brandon Cooks, whenever I say he's the man, it's because he's at home. And then when he goes away, I think maybe he'll keep it up, and he never does. So the good news is that he's at home. The bad news, they give up the second fewest points. So I don't know, but he's the only guy who would even remotely be on my radar as far as wide receivers are concerned. You're starting Drew Brees, especially at home. I don't care what the other team does. It does not matter. It's Drew Brees. You're starting Jimmy Graham. Bonus, they give up the 7th most points to tight ends. A-OK. Newbie Mark Ingram is the newbie stud. He's been fantastic. You're going to keep playing him. They give up the 4th most points to running backs. All 3 running backs scored from Cleveland last week, people. Mark Ingram is the man this week. Get it done. You know that hurts me, by the way. I'm against
to recommend a Rams running back.
But he's fantastic. Until the other guys come back, he is the man. So
Rams too, though, Ashley. It's true.
I know. It's because the Rams are next.
I know what you're saying, but I was like, yeah, they're all the same. I didn't even correct you because what's the point? He's rushed for over 100 yards and scored 3 touchdowns at his last 3 games. Stop yourself. It's amazing. So, listen, as far as the gut calls, yeah. Cooks is the only one. We have their defense ranked number 18. Hear me out here. The Bengals were terrible last week, and you're going to be tempted to play the Saints against the Bengals. But I think A.J. Green and Mohamed Sanu are talented enough for me to pause. And especially if Giovanni Bernard comes back, I think they're A-OK. So I think it's risky, but I could understand if you did go for them. So I'm saying I would pause, and I wanted to point it out because I feel like they might be a defense that people are streaming, and I'm not entirely on board. Benchwarmers, I just want to say this about Marcus Colston. No thank you. Last week he caught 2 of his 4 targets for 36 yards. But the point is, on his non-catches, one was a very clear drop that Colston just dropped. And the other one was an interception. He has some serious problems this year, and I just cannot advocate you starting him. He may blow up, whatever, but I cannot advocate it.
Can't do it. We got the Denver Broncos 7-2, the St. Louis Rams 3-6.
Courtney will be happy. This will be a very short matchup.
Great.
Yes, you're obviously starting Peyton and Emmanuel and Demaryius Thomas. This is a given. You are also starting Julius Thomas. So, heck yeah, guys. Finally coming back. Take a deep breath. High relief for Mr. Julius Thomas. Second highest scoring tight end last week with 18 points, which came off 63 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I will say St. Louis is pretty darn good at defending tight ends. 8th best, in fact. But I got a good feeling about Julius. I think he's going to do just fine this week. So you got to roll with Julius. It is what it is. My gut calls is C.J. Anderson and Monty Ball. We talked a little about this at the beginning of the show. So with Hillman's injury last week, C.J. Anderson went off for a fantastic game. 3rd highest scoring running back in fast last week with 22 points. But we've got a little bit of a backfield situation now because Hillman was playing lights out. He gets hurt. Monty Ball was the original starter. Monty Ball's coming back. So I think you're looking at a 50-50 split right now. So I don't think you're safe to play any running back. And for all we know, Juwan Thompson will be the man this week. We don't know. So I just think, if you have a better option, by all means, please choose a different person than a Broncos running back. My bench is Ronnie Hillman for the pure fact that, again, he went out last week with a foot injury, and he's expected to be gone for 2 weeks. So I just want to make sure people were aware of that. On to the Rams. Play if you got him. None. Cut calls. None. Bench. The whole team.
Bye.
The whole team. And I'm going to point out Jared Cook.
I don't care about Jared Cook. Stop talking to me about Jared
I'm saying he was the third highest scoring tight end last week. Is the only reason I'm mentioning this, but I want to make it clear, do not play him. He had one big play for 1 week. 3 weeks prior to that, he scored 1 point, 1 point, and 2 points. Don't even think about it. Matchup done.
Bam. San Francisco 49ers 5-4, the New York Giants 3-6.
You know, the 49ers are really frustrating to cover as a human being because they continue to have nice fantasy matchups and they continue to be hit or miss. It's very difficult to analyze them. I'm just going to tell you very quick facts. I will tell you that Frank Gore had a nice week last week. He rushed 23 times for 81 yards and a touchdown. He did lose steam at the end, and they put Carlos Hyde in there. 4 rushes for 36 yards and a touchdown, although his touchdown came off a really weird 8-yard run at the beginning of the first quarter. So, listen, 4 carries is not enough for me. So stop asking me Carlos Hyde questions. Listen, if he doesn't get a touchdown, he only got 36 yards. I don't have a whole lot to say about him, to be entirely frank. Anquan Boldin, on the other hand, pickup of the week. You guys, if he's available, get him. If he's on your bench, you should probably be playing him because over the 3 out of his 4 last outings, he's had over 90 yards and a touchdown.
Bam.
How many wide receivers can you say that about? How many? I mean, come on. When you're looking at your last 4 games, he is on top. So I just want to advocate for you to really think it over. He's obviously Kaepernick's best target. As far as gut calls, I'm putting Colin Kaepernick there just because quarterbacks have been very hit or miss this year.
It's true.
We haven't talked a lot about them, but they're tough. He's only scored over 15 fantasy points once in his last 5 outings. The Giants give up a ton of points to quarterbacks, so we keep rating him high because he keeps going up against these easy matchups, and he keeps not fulfilling it. I'm very concerned. I don't know what else to say about him. Last week he only had 14 completions. 14.
That's unbelievable.
I didn't even know you could do that in an NFL game. In an NFL game today in 2014. Bench warmers, Michael Crabtree, just get him out of your lineup. This is what we're talking about with studs. He caught 3 passes for 62 yards last week, but 51 of those yards came off of a desperate play at the end of the game. He would have not even come close to that. I don't trust him. You shouldn't trust him. He's only scored 1 touchdown since week 3. It's bad. Vernon Davis is another one you need to go. I dropped him in a league, and last week he caught 1 catch for 8 yards. The week before that, 2 catches for 19 yards. And the week before that, 2 catches for 21 yards. It's a pattern. Stop it. Stop hurting yourself.
Let it go. Let it go. The Frozen Song was made for the San Francisco 49ers this year.
Let it go.
Let it go. The New York Giants, play him if you got him. Odell Beckham Jr. Hello. This week will be his toughest matchup going forward until the last week against the Eagles. But he still tore up the Seahawks last week and for 108 yards. He's really becoming the reliable receiver Eli needs, so he is a must start. Good calls. Rashad Jennings. Jennings has been out for 5 weeks with a knee injury. That's scary.
Bring him back.
Listed as questionable this week, so he is expected to play. So that's good because we've all had to deal with no Jennings. That was pretty bad. You know what? His numbers weren't great the last 2 games before he left, so don't expect him to come back guns a-blazing to a tough Stanford. Prepare yourself. Larry Donnell. I know we all want to run as far as we can against Larry, and with yet another sad performance. But the real sad truth is that Larry is still the 10th highest fantasy scorer for tight ends. That is how bad the position is. It's bad. 49ers give up the 16th most fantasy points to tight ends, so right in the middle. No feelings on whether you should or shouldn't play him. I don't know whether he's going to show up on Sunday. He's too hard to predict. Bench Eli Manning. If you're in a 2-quarterback league, sure, play him. It's fine. If not, there's better options out there. Ruben Randall, 5 receptions out of his 10 targets last week for 39 yards. We've broken up. Hey, Coughlin, stop throwing him the ball if you want to win. Just a side note. You got the Seattle Seahawks 6-3 at Kansas City Chiefs. I didn't put their record down for some reason, but I'm into them.
Ends up the Chiefs are great at defending everything except for tight ends, and there are no dependable tight ends on the Seattle Seahawks, so that's a toughie. However, I will say that Beast Mode is back, and he had one of the greatest fantasy games of this season. It may go down as number 1 by the time we get to Week 17. It was nuts. I played him in a league. I wanted to cry. 40 points is just, you can't bounce back from that.
You can't.
No, that was outrageous. Listen, so here's the deal. It is rumored that they're not going to sign Marshawn Lynch again. That rumor got out. Marshawn Lynch was not happy. There were a couple weird games. Okay, that happened. It is clear to me now he is playing for a contract. He has free agency written all over him, and he is playing his guts out because he wants the largest contract possible come free agency, and he deserves it. Congratulations, all you Marshawn Lynch owners. You're awesome. Russell Wilson, listen, top 10 guy. I don't care how he does it. He does it. He's only had 2 bad games this whole season. You can complain all you want. I know his passing yards aren't great, but the guy rushes in for touchdowns all the time. It's nuts. It's a tough matchup, but Wilson's been pretty consistent, and I would stick with him considering the choppy waters at quarterback. You guys, no one's talking enough about how quarterback is actually very dicey right now. Stick with him. You'll be fine. And I'm talking about the fact that Palmer's out for the season. Cutler and Rivers decide to implode every once in a while. Tannehill refuses to be consistent. Don't even start me on Flacco and Roethlisberger. I can't talk about it. Like, there are really weird problems in this middling area for quarterbacks. So stick with Wilson. Don't get lured in.
Wilson! Wilson!
That calls is just going to be the Seattle Seahawks defense just because they've had 3 decent games in a row. And I will say, just to let you know, Kansas City doesn't turn over the ball often. So it could be a tough game, but I understand if you're in a pinch. And I will say that their schedule moving forward, not great. They're at San Francisco, then Philadelphia, then they're home versus San Francisco, then at Arizona. And then Week 17, if that's your championship, though, they will be against St. Louis. So think about that.
That's a win.
That's a win. Bench warmers, everyone else. As Ashley said at the beginning of the show, it is not worth it to start any of their receivers, including Doug Baldwin. God love him. He gets the most targets, but they're all chucked down and for very little yardage. Don't do it. And I will say, as we said, Percy Harvin going to the Jets was the best thing for fantasy owners. He is balling over there. And you know what? Golden Tate's balling in Detroit, and there is a constant there, and it's the Seahawks.
I don't think we actually talked about that on the show. I think we talked about that pre-show. What we said was that while Russell Wilson's numbers are good, the receivers, being in Seattle's receivers is awful. Golden Tate played terribly. Now he goes to Detroit. He's playing well. Percy Harvin didn't play great in Seattle. Then he goes to the Jets and he's playing well. So it's an interesting dynamic as a receiver there. So
Agreed.
Interesting.
Chiefs.
Playing if you got him. Obviously Jamal Charles. We won't waste too much time on Charles because you should already know that you were starting him. But some fun facts. The last 4 weeks have been awesome. He scored 16 points, 20 points, 14 points, and 17 points. He was the 4th highest scoring running back last week. You are always starting Charles. Gut calls, Travis Kelce. Kelce had a really, really, really bad week last week. Like, really bad.
Can't talk about
that one really hurt. But he has an incredible matchup this week with the Seattle Seahawks, who give up the 4th most points to tight ends in the league. So, and he is Alex Smith's main target in the air, so I think that you can expect a touchdown this week from Kelce. I say start him, but I have him in my gut calls just because he's a tight end. So
Cautious. Ashley's a cautious one.
I'm cautious about any tight end, let's be honest. Unless it's Julius Thomas or Jimmy Graham, they should all be gut calls. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Dwayne Bowe, I also have in my gut call section. So I mentioned last week how Bowe is kind of sneaking up the rankings a bit and might be worth a wide receiver 3 slot or a possible flex. Well, we were right. Bo had his best week ever last week with 9 points off 93 yards. And again, I've said it before, my big barometer is the yardage because anybody can get a random touchdown. But when you see the yardage, that means that they're actually going to be targeted a lot. So that's what I like. Now, this week will be a bit of a tougher matchup because he's going up against Richard Sherman and a really tough secondary, give up the 5th fewest points. So might not be the week to start him. But again, we're talking playoffs here where you need to start actually like picking up guys for the long haul to get you through the playoffs. He's someone you could maybe think about for, again, if you're in a wide receiver 3 league.
Yeah, that matchup I do not read Fantasy Orgy. Not on either side. Neither side's my favorite. We got the Oakland Raiders, 0-9, the best worst team in the NFL, against the San Diego Chargers, 5-4. We love the Raiders, by the way, you Raiders fans. We met a very nice man at the Starbucks place at our hotel in New York City. Sorry you lost against the Broncos, but you were quite pleasant. Play him if you got him. No must starts. But gut calls. I have nearly the whole entire team.
Hey.
I know. I even threw Derek Carr up there. Hey. He's had one great week, and the rest have been under 16 points, so that's not great. He had 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games, both games with under 200 yards. It's crazy, those stats. He literally was off by 2 yards. They were almost the exact same game for him. It's crazy. But those games have been against defenses that are weak against tight ends. As I've said, I've been really high on Rivera the last 2 games previous. This week I'm not because San Diego is good against the tight end, which does not speak well for him, for the Carr, but they're not good against the quarterback. So if you're stretching, there's worse options than Mr. Carr. James Jones and Andre Holmes both have been awful, simply awful.
Mm-hmm.
But they're in my gut calls because the last time they went up against the San Diego Chargers in Week 6, Jones got 11.6 fantasy points, and Holmes got 24 fantasy points.
Nice call.
This is why they're in my gut calls. There's the possibility we could have a repeat here. I don't love them forever, but this week, you never know.
Daily fantasy gold.
Daily fantasy gold. Exactly. If it's a little bit of money, I say buy it. San Diego gives up the 13th most fantasy points to running backs. So again, if you're stretching, I really like you sticking your hand in the Oakland bag because you might get some treats. If 9 points is good enough for you, I think McFadden might be willing to be on your roster. And again, bench warmers, I have Rivera just because San Diego gives up the 3rd fewest points to tight ends. He is right now the best player on the Raiders, so I don't see San Diego changing up their play to try to cover anybody else. So with that said, it's a sad day. Rivera, keep him though, guys. Next week they go up against the Chiefs who are weak against tight ends. So
there we go.
Great. As far as San Diego Chargers are concerned, on the list of things I don't want to talk about, Chargers are really up there.
I know, right?
They were my little jewel in my crown until right before the bye, and they decided to implode at Miami. It was like tears just fell down from my face.
Yeah.
Also, I hate having DeMarco Murray on bye. Hate.
I know.
Why am I talking about the Cowboys right now? Because the Oakland Raiders give up the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs. What does that mean for you? Well, this means a couple things. 1, you could play Ryan Matthews, who's coming back from injury. 2, you could play Brandon Oliver, who was great until he had the worst possible schedule you could have as a running back for 3 games in a row. God love him. And what I'm saying is, I think you could play both at flex.
Really?
Yes.
Nice. I like it.
Only a flex, not in a starting role.
I don't think you probably have 200 people starting, but I think there's a possibility both of them score. This could be Cleveland Browns territory on the Oakland Raiders. I think they're going to try to pummel them up fast, and then they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to use both of them because Ryan Matthews are not going to use full strength because he's just coming back from injury, and Brandon Oliver I think is actually going to be better with Ryan Matthews in the mix. I don't think he's an every down back because he's so small. I think this will help him. So I know it sounds crazy. It would be a very big leap of faith, but there is statistical evidence to back it up, and I just want to put it out there as a possibility. As far as Rivers is concerned, he was like borderline going to be the fantasy MVP of the year, and then he imploded with -2 points in Miami. He blew my mind. Listen, he did not get
Everyone's
pulled
allowed
because
one
of
bad
injury.
game. You're giving Jay a season of bad games and still starting him.
They were all terrible. My point is, I would still start him against Oakland. This is a statement game to get back into it. Who I would not start? The wide receivers. Why? Because oddly enough, the Oakland Raiders give up the 7th fewest points to wide receivers. Did you know that?
Interesting. No, I would not
They're
guess that.
fantastic against wide receivers. I think part of it is because people just ground and pound against them just to win the game. But the point is that I don't think they're going to be using a bunch of them. I'm just putting it out there. But I do like them rest of season, so just something to think about. So, yeah, bench warmers, though, none. I think they're all in gut calls or must-starts. Because the Raiders are a weird thing, but they're kind of good, kind of bad, exactly like Courtney said.
Best worst team in the NFL.
Absolutely.
Yep. And the worst best team is the Cleveland Browns. Detroit Lions 7-2 at the Arizona Cardinals 8-1. Don't you start talking about it. It's the truth.
Disagree.
Ashley.
Well, welcome back, Calvin Johnson. I
Hey!
would certainly, 113 yards, touchdown. He was targeted 15 times, which, you can't be mad with the fact that he was the 9th highest scoring receiver. And I will say they had said this whole, he's going to be limited use, yada, yada. I don't think 15 targets is limited use. Let me just throw that out there. If he's healthy, you're starting him, plain and simple. Golden Tate, with Megatron back, you can't expect these 20-plus point games like he was doing while Megatron was out. But I do think you can expect the 10-point range like you saw last week. He still had over 100 yards and was targeted 11 times, which is more than a lot of starting receivers on other teams. So there's still plenty of love to go around, and Golden Tate will still see a lot of it. Gut calls, Matthew Stafford. Stafford actually didn't have that much better of a game this week with Megatron back than he's had the past few weeks, which is weird, right? But it's because he kind of split that love between Megatron and between Golden Tate. So with that said, now that he has Megatron back, his favorite, target, I think he'll do a little better because now this field's going to open up a bit, right? Because they've got Calvin Johnson on one side and Golden Tate on the other, and they have to cover both now. So my big issue with this week is that Arizona is a tough matchup and have a deadly, but he does have a deadly dew in the air. So he's very much a gut call for me. Bench, Joique Bell. Bell has just been okay the past couple of weeks, but this week doesn't look any more promising as, again, the Cardinals are very tough, second fewest points to the run. So with Theo Riddick essentially being a touchdown vulture at the moment, it's not pretty at all for the backfield for the Lions. So everyone else is benched.
The Cardinals, we're going to start off with the defense. We got to play him if you got him. It's going to be a very defensive game, you guys. Cardinals have the 5th most fantasy points this year. They had 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and 2 touchdowns last week against the Rams. It was the Rams, but that's awesome. Also, Andre Ellington. Ellington has been struggling with a foot and hip injury and has been limited in practice, but he will be playing on Sunday. He will continue to be the workhorse, especially since the Cardinals lost Palmer last week. So sad. He was having a good year. He is the 7th running back in fantasy points, so he is a must start. Got calls, Larry Fitzgerald and John Brown. They both have their upsides, but it's Detroit, guys. They give up the fewest fantasy points, so only play him if you really need somebody just to fill in a roster spot, because I can't guarantee anything from them. On the bench, I have Stanton this week, but I do like him. So going forward, do not be concerned with the wide receivers for the Cardinals because of the backup quarterback situation. He is good enough to get them through, okay? Just happens to be this is not the week for him to come and play. Detroit gives up the fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. And Michael Floyd, you two are on the bench. I'm over you. You're done with me. He's only had 1 reception last week for a grand total of 4.7 fantasy points. Bye-bye. See you later.
Bye.
Philadelphia Eagles 7-2 against the Green Bay Packers 6-3. This, my friends, is Game of the Week.
This is fantasy orgy old school for fantasy football.
Go to Costco, get your paper towels. It's gonna get sloppy in here.
Super sloppy, and I'm telling you, I got 2 words for you, Philadelphia Eagles fan. It is Chip Kelly, my man. Boom. Did we tell you about Mark Sanchez? Boom!
Happy birthday, Mr. Sanchez.
Played great.
It was also his 28th birthday the other day. I told Ashley so she could wish him a personal happy birthday. Because she's the only one who could physically marry him unless really terrible, sad things happen. So, Mark Sanchez. Marky Mark is back in the house.
Woo!
You have no idea, you guys. I have gone to Jets games when he was the quarterback, and it was so fun. People show up in their like traditional Mexican garb and sing, "Ole, ole, 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 Sanchez, Sanchez." And I hope they're doing that in Philadelphia. And if they're not, you are missing an opportunity. It was fantastic. It was really fun as fans to do that. Anyway, it's really exciting. I love him. Chip Kelly, the system is everything, as we said, which is why Jordan Matthews, real deal, you guys. It was in the preseason, their relationship, and now it's here in the regular season.
I lost because of Jordan Matthews because he went off. Went off. Crazy town.
I picked him up in every league I could, and I have no regrets. Carolina was focused on Macklin, but now that Jordan Matthews has shown himself, Macklin's going to have a huge game next week. You know he's awesome. Don't worry about it. As far as gut calls, Sproles, McCoy, I don't know, you guys. I guess just a big sorry package is what I need to send all our listeners. We don't know what is happening with them, but they are very hit and miss. They're very weird, but I am enthused. Bench warmers. Goodbye, Zach Ertz.
Bye-bye.
Covering you, but one catch, 17 yards. It's been the norm. And interestingly, Selleck, though, came up big last week with catching 5 passes for 116 yards. I'm not saying to play him, but I am saying it's something to keep an eye out for because that's interesting. He also is a great blocker. One of the best tight ends in the league, underrated. I love the Philadelphia Eagles defense, but I don't play defenses against Aaron Rodgers or the Broncos. You heard it here first. As far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, you're going to play him, you're going to play Jordy Nelson, you're going to play Randall Cobb, you're going to play Eddie Lacy, and I have nothing else to say about it other than I'm sorry, Eddie Lacy, that I doubted you, but clearly they're back to you being the number one guy. Congratulations. Got calls, Devontae Adams. Last week was disappointing. 1 catch for 10 yards, but they did a bunch of weird tight end sets because the Bears are terrible. But I believe this week they're going to have to do more inventive things because of the Philadelphia defense. Much better than the Chicago defense, which is an understatement. But I think that Devontae Adams will get a touchdown at home like he usually does. As far as the other maybes train, Corliss, oddly enough, is a tight end. He's a bad option this week because they give up the second fewest options to tight ends, but I am going to list him as an option out of respect because last week he was fantastic. He caught a touchdown. Congratulations. Green Bay defense, bench warmer. I love Philly. Boom.
Boom. Philly, huh? Nice. Philly. Nice. You're going Philly.
Ole, 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 ole.
Sanchez.
Oh, maybe we should start our show off every week that way.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I really like Mark Sanchez. He's the nicest guy. Have you heard his press conferences? He's just so excited.
He's so nice.
He's always been a nice guy.
I like his videos that he has, but whatever.
Oh, the one dancing?
Yeah, with his bottom out, with his 2 girls.
He's not ugly.
He's not ugly. New England Patriots 7-2. The Indianapolis Colts 6-3. These teams aren't ugly either. Let's start off with the best looking of them all.
What?
Tom Brady. Whew, yeah, we should just say play them all, right? Brady was a concern, to say the least, at the beginning of this season. I mean, people dropped him. We said bench him. It was over. But those concerns are long gone. And now he has climbed to the 6th quarterback in fantasy points. Must start. This should be a shootout. Fantasy orgy right here. Let's get it all in. Rob Gronkowski. The Colts give up the 8th most fantasy points to tight ends. Not that matters. It's Gronk. Steven Gostkowski, the best kicker in the league. We're starting him. Julian Edelman. Edelman was targeted 10 times last week. Last time they played, they were by last week. He had 89 yards and a touchdown. I like him this week because I don't think he's going to be going up against the corners that Mr. Brandon LaFell will be going up against.
Thank you.
So I'm liking Edelman this week more than LaFell, but I still think LaFell is a must start. He's seen 24 targets in the last 2 games, so he's still a viable option in this shootout we're going to have, you guys.
Woo.
Gut calls Shane Vereen. Vereen is capable of being a must-start. Unfortunately, Belichick's play calling is not going to put him there yet.
Or ever.
Or ever. Gray is coming in now, and he's had more touches than Vereen 2 weeks ago. That's not awesome. Vereen is good in the passing game, and the Colts struggled to stop passing for the running back, so that's a positive thing. Bench warmers, the New England Patriots defense. Stop it. We're going against Andrew Luck, people. Lucky Luck, the best quarterback in the league. I'm going to make a song for him because he makes me so happy.
I love him too. I missed him last week.
I missed him. And my fantasy leagues really missed him.
You could do a little Guy and Dolls playoff, like Luck be a lady. Luck be a starter tonight.
Always.
Luck has only had one game under 20 fantasy points, and it was in week 2 against the Eagles, and it was still for 18.88 points, people. Crazy talk. He's the man. T.Y. Hilton. New England is going to be putting all their efforts to stop Hilton from having another great game against them, but can't bench him, you guys. Can't bench him. He's had over 10 fantasy points in 5 out of the last 6 games and over 20 fantasy points in 2 of the last 4 games. So, gotta play him. Ahmad Bradshaw. Bradshaw is not only the workhorse, like some running backs are. New England gives up the 6th most fantasy points to running backs. They can't stop him from catching the ball. He's listed as possible, but don't let that concern you. He's playing. Guys, it's still Bradshaw. We're playing him. Dwayne Allen. Don't forget about Allen, you guys. They were on bye last week. Allen is the 7th-ranked tight end for fantasy points. Put him back in your lineup.
I just picked him up in a league. I was blown away.
I've been yelling at people all year about Dwayne Allen. It's bananas. It's crazy. We're talking tight ends, you guys. Tight ends are really bad. Really bad.
Yeah. I dropped Vernon Davis for him, and I was like, no problem. Thank you.
No problem. He's it. The Pats love giving up fantasy points to tight ends too, and with so many weapons to protect on the Colts, like, please. That's why Kobe Fleener is a gut call.
Yes.
I agree.
I played him 2 weeks ago because I had to, because I had my quarterbacks on bye, and I had to play 2 tight ends. Man, he was getting the ball passed to him like 1.5 million times. 11 targets to be exact. I couldn't help myself. 77 yards and a touchdown. Sign me up. He's amazing. Delaney Walker's out now. He's the tight end to pick up if you need one. I mean, come on. He's it. He's good, you guys. He's good. If they use him, he's fantastic. Trent Richardson. I have him in gut calls as well. If you need a running back to help you get by this week, Richardson could be your guy. This should be a fantastic orgy, and Richard should be part of it. He's healthier, and he's ready to help the Colts beat the Pats. Go Colts, guys. Go Colts.
And the Patriots give up so many points to running backs. It's like...
It's crazy. It blows your mind. I mean, it's going to be a shootout, so the Colts have to make sure that they keep up with the Pats. But as long as it keeps competitive, then, those running backs are going to be part of that offense to get them a victory. Reggie Wayne. Wayne has had 10 targets. Had 10 targets in Week 9. He had his best game since Week 4 was 70 yards and a touchdown. Before that game, he zeroed out. All right, the Patriots give up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. Wayne is now a boom or bust player in 2014.
Sad.
He's not my favorite play, but Luck is going to have to spread the ball around if they want to keep it competitive. So I understand if you need to play him, but let's just get it over with, guys. It's just a name on the back of a jersey at this point. Bench warmers, Indianapolis Colts defense. It's the Pats. It's going to be a fantasy orgy. Do not play either defenses. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers 6-4 against the Tennessee Titans 2-7.
May I just say, I know we don't do this anymore, but who do you think is going to win that huge marquee game? New England at Indianapolis.
I'm going Indy.
I'm going Indy as well.
I am too. Is it because we're homers and we want to have home field advantage and
Yes.
New England has to lose? Okay, great.
And we don't like
Put it
New
out
England.
there.
And I have faith in luck.
Andrew Luck is the man.
Is the man.
Okay, sorry.
Steelers. Titans.
Steelers
Astros.
time. Steelers.
We got it.
Play him if you got him. Your obvious is Antonio Brown. He had a bad week last week, but that's because the entire Steelers team, other than Martavis Bryant, had a bad week. So you're playing him. You're playing Ben Roethlisberger. You're playing Le'Veon Bell. You know, Bell had a fairly sad performance last week with only 6 points, so he slipped from the 4th to the now 5th highest scoring running back. But you can't complain that you have the 5th highest scoring running back. He is still elite. You are playing him. Forget about last week. And the Titans give up the 6th most points to opposing running backs. This is going to be a great game for him. Martavis Bryant, it is official. This kid is hot. Beep.
I will
Seriously.
go with this.
He's our beat player.
Flawless.
4 back-to-back weeks of double-digit points. 10 points, 20 points, 16 points, and then 20. As well as 6 touchdowns in 4 games. This kid is amazing, and he's actually not owned in 30% of some leagues. So if you're in a league where he's not owned, hop on over to the waivers and pick him up immediately. If you are lucky enough to own him, you obviously know you were starting him. My gut calls are the Steelers defense. So I couldn't believe when I actually saw this, but the Steelers are the defense is the 12th highest scoring defense in the league right now, which is surprising to me for some reason because they've just kind of looked ho-hum. But the Titans give up a lot of points to opposing offenses, and they are a bit of a mess right now. So this is not a terrible flyer if you need a defense. I think you should be set without it, but I'm just going to throw it out there just in case. Bench, Heath Miller. It would appear that he had 3 cold games, and then boom, huge game. Another bad 3 weeks, and then whammy, huge game. But guess what, folks? He's only had 2 bad games since that last whammy, which means he's going to have a bad week this week, and then he enters the bye, which means you cannot possibly play him based on this pattern until week 13. Is what it is, people. Tennessee Titans. Play him if you got him. None. Gut calls. None. Bench. We got a bit of a situation on our hands in Tennessee, people. Bit of a situation. We got Zach Mettenberger is the new man in town as the quarterback change, and is taking some time to find his rhythm. Yeah, this team was already struggling, and now we have to literally downgrade everyone on the team until we can literally see some production from them. And I really do mean this. Everyone on the team is on the bench until we see something productive. With that said, Delaney Walker was the only feasible player that you were playing anyway for the last few weeks, and he went out with the concussion last week and is not expected to play this week. So really got to find another option.
I love Delaney Walker, though.
I do
just
too.
want to
I
end
know,
the
it's
show
sad.
that I love Delaney Walker. And to me, looking forward, he's a high draft pick for me next year.
I like him too. It's sad that he went out.
He's a stud.
Kendall Wright's got some possibility if we see some chemistry with Zach Mettenberger. But again, they're all on the bench, folks. It is what it is.
Some tough injuries in week 10. Tough.
Tough.
Tough, tough, tough. And again, you guys, this is the week of weather, so make sure you check your forecast because it's going to affect you. And know if they play in a dome, people, because it could be snowing in negative degrees, but if they're in the dome, it doesn't matter, okay? Let's just know where we're playing, all right? Again,
Reminder, Minnesota is no longer in a dome because they
yes.
used to be in a dome, but they're not. They're playing at the University of Minnesota now, which is outdoors. So you may have the wrong information.
They might, yeah, but they're at the Bears. They're at Chicago.
That's Chicago this week. You're right.
From here on out, just know Minnesota is outside. Get them out of your lineups. The Baltimore Ravens, Dallas Cowboys, Jacksonville Jaguars, and the New York Jets, they are out. Ashley and I say bench Cutler, but Brandon's all in. Have a good time with that in Week 11. Make sure you hop over to herfantasyfootball.com. Check us out on Twitter at herfantasyfb, on Facebook /herfantasyfootball, and on ESPNW for a short video and some write-ups. You guys, we love ya. We love you lots. And whenever you're in doubt, because we've been rambling, go to our site, herfantasyfootball.com. Check out our rankings. Play the best available person. We'll have it all laid out there for you as well. Guys, good luck. Enjoy yourselves and win. Until next time, no more faking it.